most of employers would like to have people with disabilities in the workplace, for them it's quite hard. When they go out, when employers go out and trying to find people with disabilities to be employed, at least in developing countries or in emerging economies, it is very difficult to find a person with disability with employability skills. And this is basically because the education systems in those parts of the world are not very inclusive. This generates a very serious skills gap for people with disabilities, leaving the training responsibility of people with disabilities to the employer. And this is where the incentives, if any law should have incentives, in our opinion, would be incentives for training people with disabilities so that these skills gap can be shortened and they can come into the world of work with some employability skills and capabilities. They need to be trained, they need to have skills so that they add value to the working environment and to the company they're working for. One of the challenges that employers face is that they're not aware of what reasonable accommodations is. But in most of the cases, the reasonable accommodations are at zero cost or at very limited cost. And even when an investment is required from the employer, there's usually benefits and incentives in the law that employers are not aware of. So it is an issue of making employers aware that there are some benefits and for implementing reasonable accommodations, but also letting them know what do we mean by reasonable accommodation. Another thing that we have found in practice that sometimes is overlooked is the fact that the work environment where we are going to take in persons with disability needs to be prepared. Other colleagues or future colleagues of persons with disability should be able to, should know what were the motivations and what were the reasons that the company decided to implement this policy. And their colleagues need to be trained on how to engage with persons with disability, how to treat people with disability in order to make them feel welcome in the environment so that, as any other person would like, be happy in the working environment that they are going to be spend most of the time of the day in. Let's be realistic. Employers need assistance in all of these issues. They need assistance because they don't know, most of them, they don't know what to do, even if they want to include people with disabilities in their companies. So I really believe that here it lies a big opportunity for business and employer organizations, specifically at the sectorial level, so that they could engage with organizations of persons with disabilities. If the business community engages with the organizations of persons with disability, they would be able to sit down and create a space of social dialogue where they can exchange all their worries and all the obstacles and all the challenges that from both sides are facing the real world of work, because our main objective should be what we call in the activities, the Employers Activities Program, we call the productive and dignified insertion of people with disability in the workplace. This means that the person that is included should feel very comfortable and also should feel that he or she is adding value to the company. My final thought would be, let's get engaged, the business and employer organizations with the organizations with persons with disability, so that both sides can have the best idea on what everybody needs, so that we could finally achieve, again, what we call this productive and dignified insertion in the labor market for persons with disability.